Okay, those are 5 changes I think Project Ascension should do to improve the game. There are more reasons actually to play the server and try it out for yourself, but I'm a content creator and I talk about stuff. Remember guys, those are only 5 changes that I want, so let me know in the comment section what changes you guys want. So stay tuned, and by the way, if this is the second or third time you see my video, yep, you should subscribe. It's time. Number 1. More events. If we have a closer look into the timeline, the only event I can see is a 40 vs 40 Battleground event, and the last 40 vs 40 Battleground event was on League 3 as they released Blackfang Lair. Why is this even an event every 4 months? In 4 months people are going to graduate in school, failing exams, getting married, getting divorced, they find a new job, they quit the new job. And Blood Bowl, which is a 1 vs 1 deathmatch, I'm not counting that. Same thing with Cross Cage, because the majority of the player pool are PvE players. So maybe at a group event in Shattered where you have to take down the dummy with a bunch of players in a specific time, and every contester get a loot box with raid gear or jump puzzles. Puzzles in general where you have to solve it to get loot boxes, again with bunch of stuff, for example gold, marks of ascension, hour of experience, or a mount. There are so many mounts in World of Warcraft, and we know that there is a bunch of items in the game from different expansions, so just put some mounts for events. Number 2. PvP bracket reward changes. Let's talk a little bit about PvP. Players are getting the PvP gear throughout playing Arena, but what happens if they decide to give you the gear and weapons by playing a dead bracket? Right, the dead bracket stays dead and players decide to not play Arena in general. Even if I think the rating to gain to get the gear is actually not that hard. The hard part here is to get into a 2 vs 2 game, which isn't really working because nobody plays it. Some of you might say now, but I play 2 vs 2 and I got the gear. Sure, right, but you are just a player, you are not the audience. 2 vs 2 kinda only works in a frenzy time where a lot of players are online, but what happens with the players that are working? What are with the players that are sleeping or not at home at this time? So what I want to say is, this whole Arena PvP stuff isn't really casual friendly. So if you ask me what we should change, get the rewards back to 1 vs 1. The rating is totally fine, same thing with the titles. The max title you can get in 1 vs 1 is Duelist, in 2 vs 2 you can get titles like Gladiator and so on. So it should be possible for healers to play PvP. Number 3. Cages after finishing a dungeon. I don't know what happened or why someone decided to not give loot boxes after a finished dungeon or a raid boss. We're playing a game where you literally have over 100 possible class combinations. This worked really good on a La Classic and on Mal'Ganis on League 3. People want to try new random enchants, but for new random enchants you need different gear. One day a player wants to play a strength based random enchant and the other day he wants to play a caster build. But to do that he needs to farm new gear, and to farm new gear they have to spend a lot of time to find groups for the dungeon and to get the loot they want. And at this part it's not even sure that this random enchant might work out for them. So why make a game which has already high experience rates a game with a huge time of delay to get something? Sure, Project Ascension needs a player base, and if everyone runs the gear for the random enchants they want to play, they get bored quick and stop playing. But to drag out content by farming a lot of gear makes the player quit faster, because nowadays nobody got time for it. Just look into my analytics. 60% of my viewers are 25 to 34 years old. That's a time where you have kids, a job, stuff to do in real life. To drag out content like that makes it so unrewarding to play a game. It makes a classless server to a server with class, because you kinda are forced to play the build where you spend the majority of your time in Project Ascension. Number 4. Add new items. Adding new items into a game with a lot of possibilities to play a random enchant or a class just feels right. The amount of theory crafting you need to do just fits perfect in a world with more than the items that we have now. A game which builds around a lot of modified stuff should work with modified or added items. Adding new items would give more content to the game that we have now, and this idea would work so good together with the loot boxes that you can get after a dungeon or raid boss fight. The itemization on Project Ascension plays a big role. You can have the right build but a bad gear and you still would perform really bad. And with new items I don't only mean stats, such thing like crit or hit, I mean really items with effects on them. Items with sets, for example you play a fire build, get a set of 2 new items and your fire spell damage is increased by 5%. Sure, You need to balance stuff like that, otherwise this could end up being a super overpowered random enchant, but let's be honest, everyone tries to theory craft a super overpowered random enchant until it gets nerfed or just being removed from the game completely. Number 5. Please remove spell draft deck and dealer's draft deck. This might be maybe for some of you a big question mark on a draft server to remove the random skills on the start. I have the dealer's draft deck so I can choose my skills however I want, but what is the point in giving me the option to get my skills 100% for the start, but I have to still draft it by clicking all the time until I have it? That makes absolutely no sense for me, it's just wasting my time. So why I say remove also spell draft deck? The first thing a new player is going to see if they play Project Ascension or LAR is a pay to win option. He could decide if he wants to spend 2 hours to finally get 4 skills in the right order, or he spends some money into that game to get advantage that mostly the player pool on Ascension already have, a dealer's draft deck. Yeah sure, you can play a bit, farm gold and buy it throughout the auction house, so you are not forced to spend real money on the game, but still, a game that shows you directly from the beginning, from the start, that you can spend money to get advantage is a bad early game design, which shouldn't be in a game like Project Ascension. In my opinion, I don't think Project Ascension is a pay to win, because you can easily buy everything from the auction house by just playing a little the game, but new players don't know that. They join, they see pay to win, they leave. So it already happened, so maybe just make the starter skills until level 10 free to pick. Those are 5 changes that I wish that would happen in Project Ascension. It's my job to not only tell you about builds or stuff in the game and how good Project Ascension actually is, I am also highly interested in improving the game and the content on the server, because time goes by, new games comes out. Remember the time where you played Tetris on your Game Boy and then Pokemon Red comes out. This will be the same thing with World of Warcraft. Sure, it will remain a good game like Tetris, but still, it's Tetris.